Hello, it's Annika Hurwitz, and I'm speaking to you from my home office here in Temple, New Hampshire. And this is my second installment in a series about self-criticism and how debilitating it is for people, what a joy killer it is, and how understanding the three principles single paradigm is so helpful for people who suffer from a habit of self-criticism, which seems to be really rampant. And today I want to talk about another client I'm working with who came to me maybe about 5 weeks ago with severe anxiety and depression. And I taught her, as I teach everyone, the three principles of mind, consciousness, and thought, discovered by Sydney Banks. Mind, again, being that formless energy that has a deeper intelligence built into it. Thought being a principle that powers up our thinking. And consciousness being our capacity to be aware of what we think. And how these principles have revealed a new paradigm for mental health and spiritual evolution. That paradigm we call the single paradigm because it demonstrates that we are feeling our thinking every moment of the day. And while that may sound similar to so much of what's out there talking about thought and how we have to think positively or reframe our thoughts when they're negative, it's actually fundamentally different, or there's a fundamental difference which makes all the difference in the world. And the fundamental difference is we're talking about this as a principle-based paradigm, meaning that it is 100% of the time. And if you listen to how people talk about their life experience, they may say they know that thought creates their experience, but they'll say, I'm upset because of a fight with a friend. Now I have to think better about it. Well, what this paradigm demonstrates is they can't be upset from a fight. A fight has no way of putting a feeling in them. Only a thought about a fight can bring a feeling. And this is true across the board, 100% of the time. And the implications of that for people's mental health and well-being are enormous. So when it comes to this particular client, as I taught her these principles and the single paradigm, and she began to wake up to how her thinking was creating her feeling moment by moment, and how there's a set of feelings or a world of feelings that clients begin to recognize as what I call outside-in indicators. Indicators that we have once again get pulled into the illusion that something that's not thought is creating our feelings. And these are feelings like insecurity, anxiety, stress, busy-mindedness. And then there's feelings that indicate when we're in alignment with how our mind actually works. Feelings like mental presence, well-being, calm, joy, happiness, connection with life, nature, other people. So as this client began to learn this, she began to see how much anxious thinking she was doing and how it had led to her losing one job after another or feeling like she had to quit. So when she started with me, she had left a job where she was actually really in her element, really following her passion. But after a while, it began to look like the job was problematic because she was burning out. And it looked like it was coming from the job. So she left and went to a job that has nothing to do with her life joy and her life passion. And predictably has become much more unhappy there. So as she's learned about this, she's seen how if you think in ways that cause anxiety, you're going to get burnt out no matter what you're doing. And in her case, as her mind started to get quieter, it became obvious that she was criticizing herself, analyzing herself, talking herself down constantly. It was what you might call a severe thought addiction. The good news is as she realized this, it was only 4 sessions till our most recent session. Her life is changing in big ways. And one of the things you often see when these principles start to impact people who are suffering a lot psychologically is people will get very tired. And that's because your mind is starting to release these stress-producing habits, and there's a repair process that needs to happen. People will often feel the need to sleep a lot for a short period of time while you recover. So this is what's happening for this woman who wasn't sleeping well at all, and now she's sleeping a lot. From seeing her self-critical habits, and that's the principle of consciousness, seeing them, they've settled down, settled way down. And the result is that space has opened up for her to begin getting fresh ideas again about her career direction. But here's the kicker. She came in to talk to me about those ideas, the progress, the sleeping a lot. You could see she was changing profoundly. And yet she said to me, but Annika, as I get these good new ideas for forward motion, what do I do about that voice that comes in and says, who do you think you are to think you can do what you love? Have you really thought this through? How is this going to lead to retirement? Now, to be honest, I was a bit shocked, and I think it's part of the blessing of having learned these principles 25 years ago, to think that you wouldn't know that a severe, harsh, mean voice in your head was an outside-in indicator, not thoughts to pay attention to, clearly a habitual thought pattern rearing its ugly head, which will happen more as you move in the direction of change. And when I told her this is an outside-in indicator, when you hear that harsh, critical voice, she was really surprised. You could see it opening psychological doors for her. And so part of my inspiration for this video is to reach out to all of you out there with the self-critical habits so that you know when you hear that voice, that's not wisdom. That's not common sense. That's not something to pay attention to. That's something to realize is coming from the illusion that something other than thought can put feelings in you, like imaginary judgments from other people, imaginary failure, whatever illusion your thinking is pulling you into. And when you get off track that way, we have the blessing of these principles and the new paradigm they've revealed. We simply need to look in the direction of the fact of thought creating feeling in the moment, to settle back down, to come back into alignment, to make it very obvious to your wisdom and common sense that that voice is irrational as well as unproductive. P.S. Just before I made this video, I got an email from this client saying miracles are happening. She's taken steps to launch her new career, which is back in the direction of the previous one that was in alignment with her passion. She's given notice at her job. She feels like miracles are happening. Those of us teaching the principles, we see this frequently, but it's always an occasion for rejoicing and for gratitude, and also for me to share this with you, that this is within your reach. As Sid Banks used to say, happiness is just a thought away. And learning these principles and how to align with the true paradigm of how your mind works has infinite power for psychological freedom and spiritual evolution. So thank you for listening. I'll be speaking with you again soon.